and I want to welcome you to our Wednesday night Bible study. And as always, it is my prayer that during our time together, that something will be said or done to encourage you in your faith walk. And if you don't know Jesus, I pray that you will come to know him on today. So we're excited you guys are joining us tonight. If you haven't started your watch parties, please start your watch parties. Share this information. I am so excited tonight. We're going to be talking about where do we go from here, part 2. And we were able to get the majority of our panelists back this week. And I'm so excited they're here. I want to give them a chance to introduce themselves, tell you their name, the state they're in, and just kind of what they do. We're going to let the ladies go first. We're going to start with Octavia, then Ebony, then Hill, then Zell. Octavia.
Okay, hello everyone. Octavia Richmond. I'm from Barnett, Georgia. Currently, right now, I am a teacher. I teach environmental science to students in Macon, Georgia. I also, for the last 10 years, have been running a non-for-profit organization called Down in the Rough, which is an organization that is geared towards girls, young girls between the ages of about 8 to 18. It's just more of a rites of passage curriculum that we're doing for them. So we're teaching them everything from life skills to hygiene to sewing, cooking, and things like that. And I'm just proud to be here today.
Thank you so much. Ebony.
Hey everyone, my name is Ebony Turk. I currently live in Dallas, Texas. I work for an organization called Positive Women's Network USA. We are an organization of women living with HIV who do policy advocacy work locally, statewide, and nationally. That's it.
Okay. Roland, Zell.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roland Wright. I go by the name of Zell. I would like to consider myself a small entrepreneur. I'm an aftermarket shoe salesman. I study credit and finances. Pretty much
Mr. Hill.
Hi, my name is Rastus Hill. I am the owner of My Tees 2 T-shirt company and embroidery. This company started back in 2008 as a need in the Black community to service us with quality T-shirts, with quality printing at a quality price. My Tees 2.
Okay, great. Now I'm really excited, and I'm really excited about the time that we're living in, because it seems like the winds of change are really blowing, and that we have a great opportunity as a community to really make some things happen. And I know that requires us coming together, having these conversations, bringing in different experts and really just trying to find out, what's the best model, what's the best approach for us to move forward. Now, many of you all know I'm also the executive director of the Ring of Hope. And so I was telling Mr. Gunn that we really want to continue this conversation on a different platform, because we want to stay with our platform of Bible study, but we're going to go back to our show, Get in the Ring, and we're going to have different people coming on just talking about, we were talking about the stock market prior to coming on air. We were talking about just a lot of good things that I think that people can really benefit from in our community. And we look forward to inviting people on. If you have a business, if you have some type of expertise you want to share with the community, we're going to invite you guys to come on, and we'll do it on our Get in the Ring platform. So as I was saying, this is a great time. And our question tonight is, where do we go from here? Now, there's so much chatter, so many ideas going on, and it's a great thing, but we have to really kind of focus our energy, our attention on some very important things. So tonight we're going to talk more specifically about voting, and we're going to talk about the census. So I really want to start with voting, because people are really trying to mobilize around the idea of getting out to vote. And what I've seen in our community for a number of years is that we don't really mobilize our vote to our advantage. For example, in the community I live in the south side of Chicago, because there is so poor voter turnout, we don't always get the attention that we need from our local officials. Listen, politicians, they know where their voting is coming from, and those are the areas oftentimes they pay attention to. So I'm not going to do so much talking, but let's begin the conversation by talking about why is it so important for us to vote on the city, state, and federal level. Who wants to just chime in on that first?
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
So this directly relates to the work that I do, because right now we are organizing in, I'm organizing multiple states, multiple teams to do, get people to get out to vote. Voting is important right now because our local officials, so we'll start with city officials. So your city officials are directly responsible for your communities. That's why we need to make sure we know who we're voting in to represent our community. So people like our aldermen, people like our district attorneys. A lot of people don't know the district attorneys are the ones who decide whether to charge a police officer if he does something incorrectly, which is the moment we're in now. A lot of times the district attorneys are responsible for that, and we vote them in. We also vote in our aldermen or city council members. We also vote in the people who represent us in Washington, D.C. So our federal legislators, all of those people we vote in, and it's important because they're the ones responsible for the businesses that come into our community. They're the ones responsible for allocating like funds to our schools. They're responsible for pretty much most of the things that happens in our community. If our streets have a bunch of potholes, so I'll start there with that's why we need to vote, and that's why we need to know who we're voting for when we vote people in locally.
Now, let me just chime in for a minute, because maybe you guys are guilty like me. Sometimes we know the names of people at the top of the ticket because of advertisement. Then there are other judges and, as you said, other people that we don't know their names and we just clicking boxes or don't vote at all. I think it's very important for us to make sure that we do our homework to make sure we're voting in the right people. Now, Rastus, you and I talk, and you have many times been critical of politicians that we voted in, and then them not in turn earning our vote or doing the right thing with our vote.
Yes, I had before Obama got into office, me and one of my friends from grammar school, we was talking. He got mad at me because I made a statement to him, and I made a statement about the election of Obama into office. And I was really trying to tell him, this is the statement that I made, and I use this phrase a lot. I said, if you don't vote locally, nationally, your vote does not count. And he got upset with me with that. But my analogy of that is, your local politicians are the ones that are going to bring you the money. No matter how hard you fight to get a president in office, if you don't have no local politicians that's going to be there to get that money for you, then I don't care who you put in the office on the president's side, locally, if you don't vote, you won't get no money.
And that's a great point. And let me ask you guys a quick question about the idea of being loyal to one party. Because we say, my grandma was a Democrat, my granddad was a Democrat, I'm gonna stick with the Democrat. How do we begin to move beyond party affiliations to find out which party or which independent is gonna work in the best interest of our community? Anybody else could just comment about that, or just something different as it relates to voting?
Pastor, I'll just say this. When I first started voting, yes, I did vote Democrat. I did. But I would say that now that I'm older, I'm looking for the person or the people that's going to represent me and for everything that I stand for. As me being just an entrepreneur, me for my community and things like that. I want to know what they're standing for with how I'm living, how they're going to protect me and my family or help me and my family. So at this point, it really doesn't matter if they're Democrat or Republican at all, really. That's just my stance on it.
Now, you're in the hot spot right now. You're in Georgia, and right now they're talking about voter suppression and what's going on down there. So tell us what's going on there, because I think that Georgia may be an image of what we have to look forward to in November. And so tell us what's going on in Georgia as it pertains to people coming to the polls now. And what are they voting for now?
People are coming out to the polls, and it's totally different than it was in 2006. I'll tell you that. And I think because of these last 4 years, we have seen a lot of things that we want change from. So the people were out. But the thing was, as you see, it's nationally and it's even on the news, that there was a lot of antics that happened. There was a lot of voter suppression that did happen. And there was a lot of defaults in new machinery and things like that. People were being moved around to go and vote. Some people didn't even get a chance to vote. They let some of the election polls stay overnight. I mean, not overnight, but way past the time to just try to service those people. So people were out. So you can see that there is a change, that people want change. So that's why I guess Ebony can talk more about it, because her organization was really helping people get to the polls in Georgia.
We had a team in Georgia yesterday, and it was, the voter suppression tactics were horrible, and they working. The problem with Georgia is they have a Republican governor and Secretary of State. So the Secretary of State is the one responsible for the Board of Elections, and they're the ones responsible for making sure all of the polling places are open and correct. So a couple of years, last year, they also had a election debacle, and they closed 50 polling places in the Atlanta metro area. This was and they purged 5,000 people from their voter rolls for little things like a space in the name or name spelled wrong. These are tactics people use when they don't want our community to vote. And it's happening a lot right now because the current administration and his teammates, the Republican governors, don't want Black people to vote because they want him to win in November. So Georgia and Florida are really close and really trying to help him win. So that's what happened in Georgia yesterday. They've closed a bunch of polling places already, and then yesterday some people just didn't show up to the polls to open the doors for people to vote. The lines were 2 to 3 hours long. They even locked mail-in ballot boxes. So a lot of people, instead of mailing their ballot, they were dropping them off, and they were supposed to have boxes. It was a bunch of boxes that were locked. They couldn't even drop their ballots off. So this is what we call voter suppression tactics. And this is what we as a people have to overcome. No matter what party we're voting for, we have to make sure that we are able to vote. The best way to do that is for people to early vote in states that have early voting. All states don't, but Georgia does, Illinois does, Texas does. So if your state has an early voting option, it's a great way for you to make sure your vote count, and make sure people get to vote. Because if not, what happened yesterday in Georgia will be happening all over the country come November.
And I'm glad that's why we're talking about this tonight, so we could be prepared if necessary to vote early, stand in long lines. Ras, what were you about to say, buddy? Come off mute, Ras.
Okay, I'm here. I'm sorry. No, what I was about to say is that's why it's important that we stand up for our local politicians. We put in our local politicians so things like that can't take place in our neighborhoods. Because right now, like she said, in Georgia, you have all this voter suppression. If you're putting in your local politicians, you should be able to thwart all of that. You should be able to stop all of that. And then once you put in a local politician, then you start going to your state politicians that you put in. And from there, then you go to your national politicians. But until you lock in your local politicians, then that's going to keep on happening over and over again.
And I want to go to Zale next, but I really think that we should probably do a show and begin to inform people about who's actually running for local politics. What is their voting record been? What have they done for the community? And that way we could begin to create platforms and even invite them to come on and talk about, if we elect you, what are you going to do for our community on the local level? Zale, and I want to talk to you and Zakia because you guys are the younger people on the panel, and I see a lot of young people out there protesting, and power to them, they're great. But how do we get that energy of young people to then transition from the picketing to the polls?
That's what I was just about to comment on. I want to know, how do we encourage young people to go and vote? Because the people that I be around, or the younger generation, I hear a lot of people saying that they don't think that they vote count, because as of, I don't know if you guys seen George Floyd's funeral and Reverend Al Sharpton preach. He said for years, no matter what we do, they keep their knee on our neck with, the powers that be, or just, how she spoke in a situation where it's a lot of voter suppression, where they just do trickery and fakery and don't want people to vote. And it's hard to encourage young people to vote.
Zakia, then I'll come back to Raz. So what do you think about that, Zakia, as a younger person on the panel? What are some ideas, or what are some ways that we can actually get young people out to vote? Because they're passionate now, they're revved up. How do we take them from the picketing to the polls, in your opinion?
I think that if we have like older people leading and directing them, to myself as well, because I just vote for the president. I don't do, I do everything else, but it's people that I don't know about. So it's about educating them on who they not necessarily telling them who they should vote for, or just letting them know the people that's on our side, that now that we're here, now these are the people that's going to move us forward to continue to see the results that we're looking for.
I think that's an excellent point. And I'm gonna go to Raz next. Let me just say this. And I think that leadership now has to come from amongst the people, because oftentimes there have been people that we've called leaders in our communities, and they have kind of worked with the politicians and not always in the best interest of our community. So we need an agenda from the people that the leaders take, because oftentimes they're taking their own agenda, not the agenda of the people. Rastus.
I think from what I saw from the last election, why a lot of people didn't come out was because they was discouraged about Obama being in office, and him not, basically, I'll put it this way, him not saying, hey, I'm with y'all, let's do this, make things happen. When he got in office, he didn't really reach back to the grassroots people in those communities to make things happen, to make things different. And a lot of young people saw that and said, oh, wait a minute, I voted for him and he didn't make a change, the change that I thought I was going to see. So I'm not voting in the next election, because they didn't think that their vote counted. The thing that needs to happen is whoever gets in office, whoever runs, need to come back to these grassroots organizations, these grassroots towns, and they need to start providing housing. They need to start providing jobs. Those are two things right there that will bring this country back together. But right now, if there's no housing and no jobs, then the people are going to be the same.
Yeah.
Oh, I have I would like to say to that, that is a perception that people have in communities around Obama didn't do anything.
Let's everybody else mute except for Ebony, please. Everybody else go mute except for Ebony. Thank
This
you.
is why we need political education in our communities, because it's not that Obama didn't do anything, because he did a lot. It's that Congress was a Republican Congress, and if they don't pass the bills, then nothing he proposes gets done in the communities. So a lot of us don't know how the political the processes of how it works. And right now, currently, we have a Democratic Congress. We have a Democratic House, House of Representatives, and we have a Republican Congress. So a lot of people are waiting on the second stimulus bill. The House has passed it. There is a second stimulus bill that the House has passed, but Congress, because it is Republican, is not voting on it. They're not going to pass it because it's a Republican Congress, and they don't want to give the people the money. They don't want to admit that, they don't even want to admit that COVID is still around, because they need their economy to restart, because they need the stock market to stay up. It's a lot of things that they are worried about money. They're not worried about people. So when we are thinking about voting in our communities and voting in every election, including local ones, local elections, as Rastus said, are the most important elections because you vote for your House of Representatives and you vote for your Congress. Right now, if we had a Democratic Congress and a Democratic House of Representatives, the world, I'm convinced that the world would be changed a lot. Right now, there's a lot of senators in a lot of different states that can be voted out. One being our House, the leader, Mitch McConnell, he's from Kentucky. We need people in Kentucky to go vote because we need him out because he's blocking everything progressive he's blocking for people to do. So in our communities, one thing that we can do, to Zell's point, is we need to start talking about in our families, in our small networks, how politics work. We really need to understand why local politics are important, why the census is important, why voting locally is important, why voting nationally is important. And we need to understand what the different chambers of Congress do statewide and national, because that helps people understand how that immediately affects them. Like,
and let me just say this, because you're making a great point, and I think that's going to be key. You know, us mobilizing and educating our families and friends, because that's going to be key. Because as Zell and as Zakia was saying, you know, we have to. I think knowledge is power. And I think when people have the right knowledge and they have direction, I think that will get people moving. But if there is no knowledge and no direction, you know, people don't really see purpose in doing it.
Anybody talking? Nobody talking?
Go ahead.
Okay. No, I was gonna say that's why local politicians are very important, because that's something that we can get put into the educational system in the school. To have these political classes where people can really understand the political process.
It was called civics, right? It was called civics class, right?
Yes, it was. But if it's boring, you have a boring teacher and it's not really being taught in the proper manner, kids will become disinterested in that process. But it's a very, very important process. Everything runs off of politicians and laws.
And I think because we're not informed, people are able to buy our votes with marketing. It's like if you hear the name enough, when you go to the poll, you see the name, it becomes synonymous with the advertisement. And so people are buying our votes through marketing and through party affiliations or our dedication to that, and we're not really being informed. So I really want to commit myself to, at least with my family and my kids and my friends, to really do some homework. You know, really do some investigating, because right now, we're going to talk about this, we have to really strike now while the iron is hot, because we have the ears and the attention of the world, and now we need to really make sure that we have an agenda that's going to be in our best interest, that we can promote and elect people who are going to push forward that agenda. Anybody else has any comments about voting? Then we're going to move to the census.
I was just going to say one last thing about voting. You have local politicians that are getting judges elected and put into positions of power. And if the best thing that we can do in our community is to research these judges and find out which ones we want on the bench and which ones we want off the bench, and we need to organize and get them either in or off. It's very important. Judges make a lot of rules. They make a lot of decisions that can affect our community. If we don't have the proper judges in place, our community will suffer.
And so I want to commit to this, and I'll let you go next, Ebony. I want to commit to us using our platform, Get in the Ring, to really start highlighting some of these people who are running for judges. And you guys could come on and help me out, because I'm not an expert, but just really do some homework and find out who do we need to put in office, whether it be the judge, the alderman in certain areas, so we can kind of be better informed and better inform our people on who we should mobilize behind and give them our support. Ebony, I'm sorry.
No worries. Really quickly, before we end this section, I just want to say that we should also be working campaigns for people who we believe in. If we believe in our local alderman or our representative, we need to be working on their campaigns and helping them. What that does is it helps you create a relationship with that elected official if they get elected. And now you have a direct ear to a person who makes who makes decisions for your community. You're able to hold them accountable to what they said to you on the campaign trail. So we need to make sure we are working with them. We need to make sure that we are holding them accountable for their votes. You can see everything they vote on on the internet, on their anything your representatives, councilmen vote on. It's all public record. So if they said one thing on the campaign trail and they voted a different way, it's your responsibility as a community member to go in and say, I need to understand what happened here. The last thing I want to say about this is you can also help your elected official write bills to be presented to get passed in chamber. So all of the laws and all of the things that are written, community members help to do that. They get people who are experts in the community to come in, read that, work with their staff, and make sure it's written right. They get people to come in and testify about why it should be passed as a law or a bill or an ordinance. All of those things are done within community. So it's very important that we work with these people who are trying to be elected, and then once they get elected, work with them and hold them accountable for what they said they were going to do when they were running.
I want to also add this. I know there's probably some community organizers who are watching now, people really involved with the community, from the community. You guys can run for office, because we don't have to just stick with the same old just because it's familiar, because I think we need some innovation, new ideas, fresh blood. And so there are some people watching right now. You have political aspirations, go for it. Present your platform, mobilizing your community and go for it. And remember this, those people who we elect for political offices, they work for us. We're their constituents, but they work for us. And we have to make sure that they're doing their job, as Ebony said, that we put them in there to do. So I look forward to us continuing this conversation, bringing back some more information about people who are running in our local elections, state and federal. Now we're gonna just kind of shift the conversation now and talk about the census, because there's a lot of myths out there about the census, about people trying to get into your business and your home and what have you. So let's talk about real quickly, why is this census important? I've done mine already, and I'll admit in years past, because I didn't know, I didn't do it. But now that I understand why it's so important, and this happens every 10 years, I believe, that we all need to be counted in the census. So let's talk about, to those who are watching, why the census is so important as it relates to where we go from here.
I'll start. Well, as we know, the census will help as we sit here talking about what the community needs. And if they can't get a proper count of who's there, then they don't know what type of needs you have, then that's how the unmet needs are in the community. So it's very important that people do their census. Now, I know I'm one of those people that's very guilty of that. My younger years, I did not do the census. They used to come to my door, I did not do it. When they sent it in the mail, I did not do it. And for that reason, like, why do they want to know how much I made? Why do they want to know about this? What's going on? Is the government behind this? Blah, blah, blah. So it was like I didn't. But as I became more invested into the community and started to talk more to people, politicians and things like that, and to my alderman when I was there in Chicago, I started to learn the importance of that. So you're kind of cheating yourself. You're cheating your community when you don't do your census. So you need to think about that. So when people are talking about these food deserts and these liquor stores and these things and that, they're going by what the need is. They're going by what the census is. You have to speak up. So it's just as much as important as voting, you need to do your census. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay, go ahead, Rash.
Now, I was going to say, in layman's term, if you don't get yourself accounted for now, you're going to lose out in the future. What I mean by that is the less amount of people that sign up for the census, I'll rephrase that. If you don't sign up for the census, you're going to lose representation downstate. You're going to lose representation federally. You're going to lose representation when it comes to housing. You lose representation when it comes to unemployment. You're going to lose representation if you don't be counted. You have to be counted. If you're not counted, you're hurting your community.
Absolutely. The only thing I want to add is right now we're in a moment where we are advocating and we're marching and we're protesting for, it started because of police violence, but one of the conversations where it's going from there is how can we decrease police violence? How can we decrease police presence in our communities? The way we do that is if they put programs in our communities like mental health programs, after school programs, they put the grocery stores in the community, they put the things that we need. Mental health, I don't know if I said that, but that's really important right now. Mental health access in our community. If you do the census, dollars are allocated to your household. How many people, and it asks you how many people are in your household. And while I'm talking really quickly, Pastor, I just want to do this real quick.
Go ahead.
Oh, I can't do it. You guys disabled. I was going to show how easy it is to do the census. Like it is 3 minutes. It takes less than 3 minutes. It's like 4 questions. And all they ask you is they want to know where you live, how many people are in your household. Even if the people in your household are not supposed to be there, even if the people in your household, like I have my cousins and sons spend the night a lot. They in my household. So I counted 6 people in my household, although 6 people are not on my lease. Although I don't always take care of 6 people, but they here half of the time. I counted all them people in my household because all them people are in my area. All them people are getting services and going to school and grocery stores here. And I need dollars allocated to each one of those people. So it's really easy to do it. They won't track. They're not tracking you. They're not trying to get all up in your business. They really just want to know how much money to allocate to that community. They want to know how many people are going to be going to schools, how many kids. They're going to ask you your ages of your kids so they can know how much money they need to put into the schools, and all of that. So yes, please, it's really easy. Census.gov. It doesn't take any time, and everybody should go do it.
And this money is determined over the next 10 years. Am I correct? So for the next 10 years, these census numbers will determine what dollars come into our community. Now, I want to ask Zakia, not putting her on the spot. She's the youngest person here. I like picking on her a little bit. So were you, Zakia, prior to this conversation, really aware about the importance of the census?
No.
Okay. And I think there are a lot of young people, including myself, when I was younger, I had no idea of what it was about. So I hope that there are some other younger people here who are watching that understand the importance of it. And as Ebony said, it's very simple. I did it in a couple of minutes and what have you. They have made the process so streamlined that you could do it and it's no hassle at all. Rastus?
And I was gonna say that's another form of miseducation in our community, because something that would benefit us, they hid it from us, or we didn't seek knowledge to find out about the census. I mean, you talking about from generation to generation to generation, not filling out for the census, which is hurting us. It's hurting our community.
And I didn't realize it was hurting our community for 10. So can you imagine over a 10-year spans, millions of dollars not being in our community, all because we didn't do the census? And it's not like they took the money, they gave us money based on the numbers. Ebony?
I was going to say, I don't know how many people have heard of redlining, but if you haven't heard of it, you should go look it up. Redlining is how they draw a map around your community to see how big your community is. They do that with the information from the census. So a lot of times in Chicago, the aldermans, they're like after the census, their areas will be redrawn because the census said they're not representing 400,000 people. They're only representing 10,000 people.
That's a great point.
Now they're redrawing the map, and the aldermen know better, but they can't do anything because what these numbers say is what is actually happening for the people who are, drawing these maps. This is a tactic. To keep money out of Black neighborhoods because they know Black and brown people don't do it. I just want to be clear that is a tactic to keep us down, as Rassa just said. So my to do would be, if you are a young person watching this, ask the person who, if you're not the head of your household, ask the person, whoever the head of your household, if they've done it. And if they say no, please encourage them to do it. Say, let's sit down and do it. You can do it on your cell phone. You just got to go to, you can even just Google, how do I do the census? And a link will pop up. Or you can go to census.gov and a link will pop up. It's really easy. You can sit down and do it with your parents, with your friend, your cousin, whoever you live with. Or if they haven't done it, you can sit down and do it yourself. But please, whomever is watching, ask the people in your household, have they done a census? And if they haven't, go ahead and do it. It's really important.
Rastus?
I was gonna say, I was gonna piggyback off of the redistricting or the redlining. I was gonna piggyback off that, saying that your vote counts. You better vote your politicians in, because they're the ones that draw the maps. If you don't have no strong politicians in there, you're gonna get left out on that map.
And that's a great point. And I'm really excited to have, especially Zakia on the line, because, you know, to be educating our younger generation is so important, because what we're doing now is we're really giving them the tools and information they need to be able to build a greater future for themselves, which leads me to my last point we're going to talk about. And, you know, I hear echo in the background. So we want to talk about, lastly, why is this time different? Why does this feel different? Because we know there's been a lot of marching and protesting. You know, we've been asking for, you know, justice and rights and, you know, economic development. I don't know about you all, but for some reason, this seems a little more hopeful. There's an optimism I have that I have not had before. And I just want to know what you guys think. Do you all feel the same thing? And if so, what do you think is different about this time than all the other times we've gotten to this point?
I can just say, just been watching, even from this last month, so a lot of things have changed tremendously. It's a lot of uprising that's happened, but there's a lot of unity that's happened as well. We are coming together, and there have been some changes that are being made, and we're being noticed. A lot of things are being noticed that for a long time that's been discussed, it's been shown, but it's actually action that's being taken. I don't need to discuss those. I think we already know. I don't know. We need to talk about it, or I can just say it broadly. But there's just a lot of things that's been happening. But what I would say this, what I found out is, in 2006, we did not vote. We did not vote. They said millions, if I can remember, I think they said 10 million, over 10 million people did not vote. Over 10 million people did not vote. And I think it was because, like what Rastus said about their disappointment, or probably of the president, but I know also they just didn't feel a connection to anybody. I know personally I didn't. I didn't personally see anybody that I really wanted to vote for after Obama left. But that led the gateway for a lot of politicians and people to come in line that was not really deserving if we just would have voted. For example, for our president right now, in some states he won by less than over 10,000 votes. But in that same state, over 100,000 African Americans didn't vote at all. So if you can just imagine what would happen if we vote. And I think people are starting to see the importance of voting now. They have watched and they have been looking and they have been seeing the misjustice that's been going on and how things have been not been taken care of as it should be. And now they're willing to vote, you know. And so what I would just say is that right now I just see there's a lot of hope for voting. And I see a lot of unity that is happening in midst of all the tragedy that has happened, but I also see hope of the unity that's happening with people. So the only thing I just want to say at the end for me is just, I'm just urging people just to please, when it's your time for your state to vote, please vote. Please vote.
Great. So what's different for any of you other guys? Do you feel something different? And if so, what do you think it is?
The president. That's what's different.
I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to say that.
I mean, right now people are just tired of him. People are tired of him. People see that it's a clown, it's clownery, and we tired of it. So that's one of the reasons. Like people, like we see that our president is stoking fear, stoking racism. He's stoking these things that we've never seen a president do. He's doing things we've never seen a president do before. Even young people like, he crazy. So it's all around, they seeing this. The second thing that's different is we have been voting in elected leaders that have our need in mind. So in different states, there have been Black DAs that are from the community, about the community, voted in. So the riots and the protesting that has been happening has been about like stopping the police from brutalizing Black folks. And a lot of the wins, we're doing a lot of, we're having a lot of wins around the country, which is sparking more uprisings, and more people are seeing, oh, this can change. So because they're seeing things are changing, they're still out there pushing for it to change. But the biggest difference in this moment is we have a president like we've never seen before.
Let me just push back a little bit, Ebony, with that, because I'm in agreement with you, but he has a base and he has high approval numbers among his base. And so going back to what Octavia said, if we don't vote, you know, and we didn't get a chance to even talk about the electoral college versus the popular vote, because there's a good chance if we don't vote, he could still lose the popular vote and still win the electoral college vote.
Oh, let me be clear. So I was just asking the question, what's different? But not that I don't believe he can win. Everybody believe he can still win. Yes, he can still win. So people do need to make sure they get out and vote, because in actuality, there are a good number of people who think he will win because they think people won't go out and vote because there's not a person on the ballot who they agree with.
And not to mention the voter suppression we're seeing now in Georgia.
Exactly. Voter suppression tactics will be high. They will try that electoral college trick. But if enough people get out and vote, the electoral college won't even come into play.
Matter. Right.
Right. So enough people, if everybody gets out and votes, and I'm an optimist, so my belief is that everybody is going to get out and vote. But people who I talk to on a national level who do this all day, who has direct connections with the White House, are afraid that he will win again because they're afraid people won't get out and vote. So I hope everybody gets everybody in their household who can vote up out the bed on November 6th and get them to the polls no matter what, because we need change. Right now, there's nobody on the ticket that I want to vote for, but I will be getting out to vote for his opposition, because right now, because of him, my health care is at stake. It's a possibility that I can't take care of myself because he doesn't want to pass Medicare for all or universal health care. He don't want me to go to the doctor because I have a pre-existing condition. Right now, he doesn't want our children to go to school and be able to have a good teacher to student ratio. Right now, he could care less about anybody in our community. He has proven that.
Well, I know who you're not voting for.
No, I'm not.
Zakia, let me ask you a question, Zakia. You know, in your young life, you know, Mr. Floyd was not the first person you saw killed or murdered in such a violent way by police. Why do you think, Zakia, that this is different? I mean, this is not the first time this has happened. I mean, in your young lifetime, you know, I know of at least 25 or 15 unarmed African-American who have been killed in police custody. Why do you think this is different, Zakia?
I'll say that too. For me, it's different because I feel like us as Black people, for me personally, it's not about voting. I mean, yes, I'm gonna go vote. But I feel like the change is happening because we as Black people and as a Black community is tired of our young Black men, our kids being killed by cops because they or didn't completely stop at a stop sign. We're just tired of it, and this is why it started here in Minnesota with the cop killed the guy. So it was like we was fed up as a Black community in Minnesota. We was fed up, and it took that tragedy, which it shouldn't have, but it took this tragedy to happen for Minnesota to do something. And then I started seeing all over the world, everybody was protesting, and it's like, wow. And then not only protesting for George, for him, they told everybody, Trayvon Martin, everybody that got killed and shot by a police officer, we're fighting for. The voting, yes, it had, but for me personally, because voting wasn't the first thing on my mind. Like if I was one of those people who didn't believe that it was wrong to go riot and looting, I'd probably be up there myself. But I feel like I'm too old for that, and I know that it's not right. And because I am a child of God, you know what I'm saying, I didn't allow myself to go out there and get in the midst of it. But that spirit in me wanted to get out there and just go because I'm frustrated like everybody else. I'm tired of it. And the change, I feel like, is now, because now the police officers see that we're not just saying that cops are racist, because not all cops are racist. Not all white people are racist. But yes, now do y'all now see that they are now seeing that they have racist cops in their precinct. And now they're starting to do something about it, and that's what we want to see, and that's all we ever wanted, was to be treated fairly and equally, and not get treated wrong because we're Black. Because we can't control the color of our skin, but we should still get treated fairly, just like the next white person, Mexican, Hispanic, whoever. We should get that same treatment that they're getting, and I feel like now we're starting to see that change that we want to see, and it took this tragedy for it to happen, which is sad, and it shouldn't have took so long, but I'm just glad that it's happening.
And I see you next, Zell, but I want to just commend you, Zakia, because you said that so well. And I think, in many ways, you're speaking on behalf of the mindset of most young people. I think it's the passion of what's happened that's really driving them, to the point of protest, and, things have to change. But the evolution has to go to voting. That has to be the next phase to what's going on, because we're complaining, and those people who are not doing the right thing, we have to vote them out and put in people who are going to make the right choices. Zell, then Rastus, then we're going to wrap it up.
I think we just tired of the knee on our neck.
Go ahead, Reverend Al.
I'm just saying, I think people are just, like Zakia said, fed up, just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I know I'm sick and tired of just seeing the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor. I feel like it shouldn't be no poor person in the world. If they could just make trillions of dollars out of thin air and give everybody $1,200, they could have been did that. You know what I'm saying?
Ask for reparations, Zell. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, but go ahead, Rastus.
No, go ahead. I'm just messing with you, Zell. Go ahead. You done? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm just agreeing with what Zakia said.
Yeah, Rastus.
No, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the young people. But I think right now, the state that we in right now is just an ongoing cycle. You have had racist cops in the police department for years. There've been racist cops. Only thing is, you're starting to see it on video now. My point is this: a couple of weeks before this even happened, a young man got killed down the street from me. The lady that was doing the post office, she saw it and she passed out. Nobody was in uproar about it. One weekend, you had about 20 people get shot, like 15 people get murdered, and nobody was in an uproar of it. So it's like we are putting our lives, we're saying that when a cop kills a Black person, it's wrong, but when a Black person kills a Black person, it's all right. And that mentality right there will always keep us down, because we have to get control of our communities first before we can expect anybody to respect us in our community. If we don't have control of our communities, no one is going to respect us. They don't value us.
So I want to push back on you, Rastus, with that. With that, I want to push back a little bit on that with you and put it into some context. What you're talking about is Black on Black crime, and that's one thing that we do as Black people.
There's no such thing as Black on Black crime.
Huh?
There's no such thing as black on black crime.
But that's what you just described.
No, I say we have to get control of our own community.
So the only way we get control of our communities, right, is if we eliminate the people who are putting the white supremacist laws and putting these rules into place. So as you said, we have to make sure that we are paying attention to who is controlling what happens in our community. One of the things that I wanted to ask Sakia was what happens after the protest, because I don't think a lot of the young people understand that what happens after the protest or what happens during the protest, there's always a leader that has a plan that they're taking to an elected official to say, these are our demands. These are our demands, and this is what we want to happen. And if it does not happen, we will keep protesting. We will keep drawing attention to this issue. So this is why it's important for the people to also vote. This is why it's also important for the people to understand what's happening in their community, because what's happening with the crime, the reason why we're killing each other in the communities is because we don't have jobs. It's because we don't have mental health. It's because we don't have things, and we are we're running off of trauma and anger and having not having enough, and because we are around each other, we're killing each other. That happens because of what we don't have in our community. It's a plan. It's a plan for it to happen in our community. And what's happening now is different because people are waking up and seeing that, oh, they made this like this. Like they created, I'm gonna give you a prime example. The police budget is like $6 million. The school budget is $2 million. They closed 50 schools in Chicago a couple of years ago, right?
Can I ask you a question?
They increased the police budget.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How long has Chicago been Democratic?
Chicago's been Democratic for a long time, and I'm not advocating for Republican as opposed to Democrats. I think it's all. I think that needs to change anyway, and that's what we just said on here, that people need to find out who they're voting for outside of party lines, because they're independents as well. You need to know who you're voting for. I'm not advocating for any kind of party. I'm advocating for the right thing to happen in your community, because, as I just said, a lot of people don't understand. They closed all those schools because they had a budget of $2 million, and I'm just throwing out numbers, and the police budget will be $6 million. So they strategically make this happen. But if we hold them accountable, if we are part of the solution, if we know who we're voting in, if we are holding the people in these seats and these offices and saying, you said this, but you did this, then we change that. If we keep our feet on our knee on their necks, then they won't be able to control us like that. That's what we need to understand.
One thing I'm enjoying about this conversation, and I think it's indicative of a larger conversation that should be taking place in our community, in that we may not always agree, but we could agree to disagree and still work together, because we're bringing a lot of people together with different experiences, different backgrounds, different methods, which are good. But we have to have these type of conversations and not just go into our silos, because I don't agree with you. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm going to click up only with people who think the way I think, and now we're still divided. So we have to have these type of good conversations, which I think are productive. Rastus, then we got to close it out.
I was going to say, I'm in total agreement with partially defunding the police department, because I've always said, you should not send a police officer to a domestic violence situation and expect for that person to be the mediator. It's impossible. I mean, can you imagine trying to mediate your family members and the doggone, when y'all out there having a barbecue and then they start getting crazy and you trying to mediate? Can you imagine a police officer that has no relationship with neither one of the people, that has no mental health background, trying to mediate between two domestic people trying to fight each other? it's impossible. It's very stressful. So I'm in total agreement with getting money into the community to get people out that can handle those type of situations and not have the police go there, but other than for security reasons.
So we're gonna let Zakia be the last person because we want to be respectful of time. Zakia?
So I'm not saying that the riot and everything, yes, I understand that the voting is, but I'm 34 years old, and this year was the first time that I've ever heard of or even had to fill out for myself the census form. I didn't know nothing about it. When I go vote, so it's like it's lack of education for us younger generations. Like we don't know to go out and we got a census thing out here because nobody's talking about it. All we hear about is voting or the violence or the drugs that's happening and the killing that's happening. So we don't know. So somebody have to step up and and educate us so that we can know. And then because when you know better, then you have to do better. But when you don't know better, then you just going off of instincts. So this is so the younger generation that is out here doing this stuff, they're going off of instinct, not knowledge that they have on, oh yeah, let me go vote for this president or this congressman. Because I honestly, even though yes, in school I think they teach you about it in school now. I don't know. But I saw a video of a young black man rapping about it, and he said that you got to go vote for the congressman because they're the ones that make the law, not the president. So it's like we have to get educated on all these things, and until we get educated as a young generation, then we still gonna just go out here unknowingly doing things off of instincts.
Well, I think that we have to commit to, and I'm committing to leading up to November, to have a number of these conversations. And I want you guys to come back on, we could talk about this because I hear you're absolutely right. It's all about education right now. And I think that this is a great time and it's different because we have the ears of young people now and they're looking for direction. So it's like 8 o'clock now. I wish we could go on a lot longer. I'm really enjoying this conversation, but I promise you guys, we're gonna move this type of conversation to a different platform and we're gonna continue this because this is how we're gonna build. This is how we're gonna seize the moment. So I thank you guys for coming on for the second week in a row. Look forward to talking to you guys in the future. Love you guys. Be safe.
Schoolhouse Rock. Bring it back. Bring it back, Schoolhouse Rock.
That's what everybody needs to go look for. Schoolhouse Rock.
Schoolhouse Rock, yeah. I am a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. Yep. See you guys later.
All right.
All right.